The windshield wipers could barely keep up with the snow, and Sara Finley was beginning to think driving up this mountain road was the worst decision she had ever made. She squinted through the white curtain ahead, her knuckles white against the steering wheel as her ancient sedan crawled forward at 15 miles per hour. The weather forecast had mentioned light flurries, not this blizzard that seemed determined to bury everything in its path. She should have stayed home in Denver. She should have told her boss that photographing the luxury mountain retreat could wait until spring. But Sara never said no to assignments, not when she was still trying to prove herself as a freelance photographer. 6 months into working for herself after leaving the suffocating corporate world, she needed every job she could get. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder, but she did not dare take her eyes off the road to check it. The GPS had lost signal 20 minutes ago, leaving her with only vague memories of the directions her client had emailed. Take the winding road past Miller Creek, look for the stone markers, turn at the fork. She was pretty sure she had passed Miller Creek, but everything looked the same now, just endless white. The car fishtailed slightly, and Sara's heart jumped into her throat. She eased off the gas even more, barely moving now. Through the snow, she could make out what looked like a driveway branching off to the right. A cabin materialized through the storm, large and imposing with smoke curling from a stone chimney. This had to be it. Please let this be it. Sara turned carefully, feeling the tires struggle for purchase on the unplowed drive. The cabin grew larger as she approached, and she realized it was far more than a simple mountain retreat. This was a full mansion crafted to look rustic, with huge windows and a wraparound porch that probably offered stunning views when the world was not drowning in snow. She parked as close to the entrance as she dared and grabbed her camera bag from the passenger seat. The cold hit her like a physical force when she opened the door, stealing her breath. She had never experienced anything like this, and she had grown up in Colorado. This was different, wild, and dangerous. Sara ran for the porch, her boots slipping on the already accumulating snow. She nearly fell twice before reaching the shelter of the overhang. She pressed the doorbell, heard it chime inside, and waited. Nothing. She tried again, holding it longer this time. The door swung open, and Sara found herself staring up at a man who looked like he had stepped out of an adventure magazine. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar and sharp features that would photograph beautifully. He wore jeans and a thick flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that suggested he did more than sit behind a desk. His eyes were a startling gray, and right now they were looking at her with confusion. "Can I help you?" His voice was deep, with an edge of annoyance. "I'm Sara Finley, the photographer. I'm here to shoot the property for the rental listing." She hugged her camera bag closer, suddenly feeling the full force of the cold now that the adrenaline was wearing off. His expression shifted from annoyed to concerned. "The photographer is not supposed to come until next week." Sara's stomach dropped. "No, my email said today, January 16th. I have it right here." She fumbled for her phone, but her fingers were already numb. "Come inside before you freeze." He stepped back, and Sara gratefully entered the warmth of the cabin. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior, with soaring ceilings, exposed beams, and a massive stone fireplace that dominated the main room. Modern furniture mixed with rustic elements created a space that was both luxurious and cozy. The man closed the door firmly behind her. "Let me see that email." Sara pulled up her messages with shaking fingers and handed him the phone. He studied it, his jaw tightening. "This is my brother's mistake. He handles the property listings, and apparently he cannot manage a calendar. I'm not supposed to have anyone here this week. I'm so sorry. I can leave right away." Sara glanced at the window where the snow was falling even harder now. Her heart sank. He followed her gaze and shook his head. "You are not driving anywhere in this. The roads will be completely impassable within the hour if they are not already." He handed back her phone. "I'm Preston Oakes. It's nice to meet you, even under these circumstances." Sara tried to smile, but she felt like crying. This was supposed to be a straightforward job, in and out in a few hours. Now she was trapped with a stranger who clearly had not wanted company. Preston walked to the window and looked out at the storm. "The forecast said this was supposed to miss us." "That's what I thought too." Sara set down her camera bag, unsure what to do with herself. "I really am sorry about the mix-up." He turned back to her and his expression had softened slightly. "Not your fault. My brother is brilliant with numbers but terrible with details." He studied her for a moment. "You look frozen. There's coffee in the kitchen, or I can make tea. You should warm up." "Coffee sounds amazing." Sara followed him through an archway into a gourmet kitchen that would make any chef weep with envy. Granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, and windows that probably offered a view of the valley below when it was not whited out. Preston poured her a mug from a French press and handed it to her. The warmth felt incredible against her palms. "Thank you. The guest rooms are upstairs. Second door on the left is probably the most comfortable. You should settle in. This storm is supposed to last through tomorrow at least." He leaned against the counter, watching her with an unreadable expression. Sara sipped the coffee, trying to process everything. She was going to be stuck here overnight, possibly longer, with this man she had just met. "I really appreciate you letting me stay. I promise I will stay out of your way." Something flickered across his face. "It's a big house, plenty of room for both of us." He paused. "I was going to make dinner later. You are welcome to join me, or I can show you where everything is if you would rather fend for yourself." "Dinner together sounds good. I mean, if you do not mind." Sara realized how awkward this was going to be. They were stuck together, and she had no idea who this man was beyond his name and the fact that he apparently owned this incredible property. Preston nodded. "I will show you to your room." She followed him up a wide staircase to the second floor, where he opened a door to reveal a beautiful bedroom with a king-sized bed covered in a thick down comforter. The attached bathroom had a clawfoot tub and a shower that could fit 3 people. "This is gorgeous. Make yourself comfortable. There should be extra clothes in the dresser if you need anything dry. My sister leaves things here." He paused in the doorway, "And Sara, try not to worry, we will be fine until the roads are clear." After he left, Sara sat on the edge of the bed and called her emergency contact, her best friend Maya, to let her know where she was. Then she tried her client's number, but it went straight to voicemail. She left a message explaining the situation and the date mix-up. She changed out of her damp jeans into a pair of soft leggings she found in the dresser, along with a thick sweater that smelled like lavender. Whoever Preston's sister was, she had good taste. Sara studied herself in the mirror, tucking her honey blonde hair behind her ears. Her green eyes looked tired, but at least she was warming up. When she came back downstairs an hour later, she found Preston in the kitchen chopping vegetables with the efficiency of someone who actually knew what he was doing. "Can I help?" He glanced up. "Can you cook?" "I make a mean grilled cheese and I can follow directions." The corner of his mouth twitched. "You can handle the salad then. Everything you need is in the crisper." They worked in companionable silence for a while. Sara washed lettuce and sliced tomatoes while Preston prepared what looked like chicken parmesan. The kitchen filled with delicious smells, and Sara's stomach reminded her that she had skipped lunch. "So what do you do when you are not getting snowed in with strangers?" Preston asked, sliding a pan into the oven. "I'm a photographer. Freelance for about 6 months now. Before that, I worked for a marketing firm, but it was sucking the creativity out of me. I was shooting the same products over and over, everything controlled and sterile." She arranged the salad in a wooden bowl she had found. "What about you?" "I'm in manufacturing, industrial equipment mostly." He said it casually, but something about the way he changed the subject made Sara think there was more to the story. "And you own this place? Family property?" "We bought it 5 years ago as an investment. My brother wants to rent it out, but I like having it available when I need to get away." He pulled wine glasses from a cabinet. "Do you drink red?" "Sure." He opened a bottle, poured 2 generous glasses, and handed her one. To unexpected situations. Sara clinked her glass against his. To indoor heating and good company. They ate at the large dining table with the fire crackling in the nearby living room. The food was incredible, and Sara said so. Preston accepted the compliment with a modest shrug. My mother insisted all her children learn to cook. She said she did not raise helpless people. Smart woman, she was. Preston's expression clouded briefly. She passed away 3 years ago, I'm sorry. Thank you. He took a drink of his wine. What about your family? My parents live in Florida now. Retired early and escaped the snow. I have a younger brother in Seattle doing something with computers that I do not fully understand. Sara smiled. We are a scattered bunch, but we manage. The conversation flowed more easily than Sara had expected. Preston was intelligent and well-traveled, with a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard. He asked about her photography, seeming genuinely interested in her transition from corporate work to freelance. She found herself telling him about the fear of not having a steady paycheck, the freedom of choosing her own projects, the constant hustle to find new clients. It sounds terrifying and exhilarating, Preston said. That is exactly what it is. Sara studied him across the table. In the warm light of the fire, he looked less intimidating than he had at the door. Do you ever want to do something completely different all the time? He refilled their wine glasses. But sometimes you get locked into a path and it is hard to step away. You could, though. Life is short. Preston's gray eyes met hers. Maybe. What would you do if money was not an issue? Sara did not even have to think about it. I would travel and photograph people. Real stories, real lives, not products or real estate listings, she caught herself. Not that this is not a beautiful property. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. I know what you meant. They cleaned up together, and Sara found herself hyper-aware of his presence in the space. When their hands brushed reaching for the same dish, she felt a spark that had nothing to do with static electricity. Preston cleared his throat and stepped back. I should check the weather report. Sara nodded, trying to ignore the warmth spreading through her chest. This was ridiculous. She had known this man for a handful of hours, but there was something about him, something solid and real that drew her in. Preston pulled up a weather site on his phone and frowned. The storm is worse than predicted. They are saying 30 inches by tomorrow night. Are you serious? Road crews cannot keep up. The whole county is shut down. He looked up at her. I hope you did not have anything urgent planned for the next few days. Sara thought of her small apartment and her cat being fed by her neighbor. Nothing that cannot wait. What about you? I came up here to disconnect. Mission accomplished, I guess. He set down his phone. Do you play chess? Badly? Perfect. I will go easy on you. They settled in front of the fire with an antique chess set Preston retrieved from a cabinet. He had not been kidding about going easy on her, patiently explaining strategies while snowflakes piled higher outside the windows. Sara found herself studying him when he concentrated on the board, the way his brow furrowed, how his hands moved with confidence. Your turn, Preston said, and Sara realized she had been staring. Sorry, distracted by the storm. It was not a complete lie. He glanced at the window. It is pretty incredible. When I was a kid, I used to love snowstorms. Everything felt magical, like the world was starting over. And now I appreciate them for different reasons. The quiet, the way they force you to slow down. His eyes found hers. Though I admit the company is better than I expected. Sara felt heat rise in her cheeks. You were pretty grumpy when you opened that door. I was expecting a quiet week alone. Instead, I got a half-frozen photographer with terrible chess skills. Hey, but she was laughing. I stand by my assessment. Preston captured her queen. Checkmate, you are ruthless. You should see me in business negotiations. Sara stood and stretched. I should probably call it a night. Thank you for dinner and for not making this completely awkward. Preston rose as well. Thank you for being good company. Sleep well, Sara. She headed upstairs, very aware of his eyes on her back. In the guest room, she got ready for bed and slid under the impossibly soft covers. Outside, the wind howled, but inside she felt warm and safe. She thought about Preston downstairs, wondered if he was thinking about her too. This was going to be interesting. The next morning, Sara woke to brilliant white light streaming through the windows. She pulled back the curtains and gasped. The world had transformed overnight. Snow covered everything in smooth drifts that sparkled like diamonds in the sun. The trees looked like they were wearing white coats, and the sky was a crisp, clear blue. She dressed quickly in borrowed clothes and headed downstairs, following the smell of coffee and bacon. Preston stood at the stove, his hair still damp from a shower. He wore a dark green Henley that hugged his broad shoulders. "Good morning," Sara said. He turned and smiled, and her heart did a little flip. "Morning, hungry, starving. I made enough for two, grab a plate." They ate breakfast looking out at the transformed landscape. "It is beautiful," Sara said. "It is. Though we are completely buried, I checked the drive and there is no way anyone is getting in or out for at least another day, maybe two." Sara should have felt anxious about that, but instead she felt a flutter of anticipation. "Good thing we have food, and firewood and electricity. We have everything we need." Preston's eyes lingered on her face. "I was thinking about what you said last night about photographing real stories." "What about it? Would you want to take some shots today? The property looks incredible like this, and who knows when you will get another chance." Sara's professional instincts kicked in. "That would be perfect, actually. Better than the standard sunny day shots everyone does. Bundle up." "It is cold out there." They spent the morning trudging through the snow while Sara photographed the property from every angle. Preston helped her by clearing paths and pointing out interesting features she might have missed. He was easy to work with, patient when she needed to adjust settings or wait for the light to change. "Can I take some of you?" Sara asked impulsively. "For the listing, people like to see scale in photos." Preston hesitated, then nodded. "Sure." Sara positioned him on the porch, the mountains rising behind him. Through her lens, he looked strong and confident, perfectly at home in this wild setting. She took several shots, then lowered the camera. "You are very photogenic." "That is what my publicist says." Sara paused. "Your publicist?" Preston looked uncomfortable. "I should probably be honest with you. When I said I am in manufacturing, that is true, but it is a bit of an understatement. I own the company, Oakes Industrial. We employ about 15,000 people." Sara's eyes widened. "Preston Oakes, oh my God." "I have seen articles about you. You are one of the youngest billionaires in Colorado." "Yeah." He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I do not usually lead with that, because people treat you differently." "Exactly. When you showed up yesterday, you had no idea who I was. You were just trying to get out of the storm. It was refreshing." He met her gaze. "I hope this does not change things." Sara thought about it. The money explained the property, the expensive wine, the casual way he talked about taking time off. But it did not change the man who had made her dinner, taught her chess, and helped her with her photos this morning. "You are still a terrible chess player who beats up on beginners." Preston's expression relaxed into a grin. "I really am ruthless." They headed back inside, stomping snow off their boots. Sara's fingers were numb despite the gloves, and her cheeks burned from the cold. Preston built up the fire while she downloaded her photos onto her laptop. "These are amazing," she said, scrolling through the images. "The snow really makes the place look magical." Preston came to stand behind her, looking over her shoulder. Sara was intensely aware of his proximity, the heat radiating from his body. "You have real talent, thank you." Her voice came out softer than she intended. He did not move away. "Sara." She turned to look up at him. His gray eyes were intense, searching her face. The air between them felt charged with possibility. "Yes, I am really glad you got snowed in here. Me too." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. Sara's breath caught. This was crazy. She barely knew him. But something about this felt right, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. Preston leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not. Their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss that sent warmth flooding through her entire body. He cupped her face gently, kissing her with a tenderness that made her chest ache. When they finally pulled apart, Preston rested his forehead against hers. "I have been wanting to do that since last night. Why did you wait?" "I did not want to be that guy who traps a woman in his house and immediately makes a move," Sara laughed. "I appreciate the restraint, but for the record, I have been thinking about it too." Yeah. He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Sara melted into him. His arms came around her waist, pulling her close. She felt safe and wanted and alive in a way she had not felt in longer than she could remember. They spent the rest of the day tangled up in each other, talking and kissing and discovering. Preston told her about building his company from a small family business into an industry leader, about the pressure and responsibility that came with success. Sara shared her dreams of making a living from meaningful work, her fear that she would fail and have to crawl back to corporate life. "You will not fail," Preston said with such certainty that she almost believed him. That evening, he taught her to make homemade pasta from scratch. They worked side by side in the kitchen, flour dusting their clothes and laughter filling the air. Sara could not remember the last time she had felt this happy, this present. The outside world had ceased to exist. There was only this cabin, this storm, and this man who was quickly stealing her heart. After dinner, they curled up together on the couch, watching the fire. Preston's arm was around her shoulders and Sara's head rested against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. "What happens when the road's clear?" Sara asked quietly. Preston's arm tightened around her. "What do you want to happen?" "I want to see you again. A lot." "Good, because I am not letting you disappear from my life." He kissed the top of her head. "Though we should probably go on an actual date, dinner somewhere that is not my kitchen," Sara smiled. "That sounds perfect. And I want to see your other work, your real photography." "It is not very polished." "I do not care. I want to know everything about you, Sara." She shifted to look at him. "This is crazy, right? We have known each other for barely 2 days. Completely crazy." Preston cupped her face in his hands. "I have never felt like this before. Like I have been waiting for someone without knowing it, and suddenly here you are." "That is exactly how I feel." Sara kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. They stayed up late into the night, talking about everything and nothing. Preston told her about his siblings, his nieces and nephews, his love of hiking and sailing. Sara shared stories from her childhood, her disastrous college dating history, her secret obsession with baking shows even though she could barely make cookies. When they finally went upstairs, Preston walked her to the guest room. "I should let you sleep." Sara did not want him to go, but she also knew they had time, all the time in the world now. "Good night, Preston." "Good night, Sara." He kissed her one more time, soft and sweet. "Sweet dreams." But Sara could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 2 days. She had come here for a simple job and found something extraordinary instead. Someone extraordinary. A soft knock on her door made her sit up. "Come in." Preston opened the door, looking uncertain. "I could not sleep. I know this is moving fast, but would you want to just talk? I promise I will be a gentleman." Sara smiled and patted the bed beside her. "I could not sleep either." He climbed in next to her, staying on top of the covers, and pulled her close. They talked in whispers until Sara's eyes grew heavy. The last thing she remembered was Preston's hand stroking her hair and his voice saying, "I am falling for you, Sara Finley." "Already fell," she mumbled, then drifted into the best sleep she had had in years. The next morning, Sara woke to find Preston still beside her, watching her with soft eyes. "Morning, beautiful. How long have you been awake?" "A while. I did not want to move and wake you." He brushed his thumb across her cheekbone. "You are stunning in the morning, liar. I probably have pillow creases on my face." "Adorable pillow creases." He leaned in and kissed her. "The plows came through early this morning. The road is clear." Sara's heart sank. "Oh. Which means we should probably talk about reality." Preston sat up, pulling her with him. "I have meetings in Denver tomorrow that I cannot miss, but I do not want this to end." "It does not have to." Sara took his hands. I live in Denver. You live in Denver. We can see each other all the time. I travel a lot for work. Sometimes I am gone for weeks. I can travel. Photographers work everywhere. Sara felt panic rising. They had just found each other. She was not ready to let him go. Preston must have seen it on her face because he pulled her close. Hey, we will figure this out. I am not going anywhere, Sara, not unless you want me to. I do not want you to. Then I am yours, for as long as you will have me. They packed slowly, neither wanting to leave the bubble they had created. Preston made them breakfast one last time, and they ate in companionable silence, hands linked across the table. The drive down the mountain was beautiful, the sun making the snow-covered trees sparkle. Preston followed Sara in his truck, making sure she got down safely. When they reached the base of the mountain where the roads were clear and dry, Preston pulled alongside her and rolled down his window. Dinner tonight? He called. Sara laughed. You do not waste time. Not when it is something I want. His eyes were warm. 7 o'clock, I will pick you up. It is a date. She gave him her address and they drove their separate ways. Sara felt the separation like a physical ache, which was ridiculous. She would see him in just a few hours, but the cabin had been their world and now they were back in reality with all its complications. Back at her apartment, Maya practically tackled her at the door. Tell me everything. I looked him up. Preston Oakes, are you kidding me right now? It just happened, Maya. He was not what I expected. What was he like? Sara thought about Preston teaching her chess, helping with her photos, kissing her like she was precious. Perfect. He was perfect. That evening, Preston arrived exactly at 7 wearing a dark suit that made him look powerful and dangerous. Sara had changed outfits 4 times before settling on a green dress that matched her eyes. His face lit up when she opened the door. You look incredible. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. He took her to an intimate Italian restaurant where they talked and laughed like they had known each other for years instead of days. Other diners recognized Preston, and Sara saw women watching him enviously. But his attention never wavered from her. I have a confession, Preston said over dessert. I called my brother and thanked him for screwing up the dates. Really, best mistake he ever made. Preston reached across the table and took her hand. I know this is fast, Sara, but I am serious about you, about us. I am serious too. Over the following weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Preston made time in his demanding schedule for dinners, weekend trips, and quiet nights at his penthouse downtown. Sara met his siblings and was welcomed warmly into the family. Preston came to one of her photography exhibitions and bought 3 prints, insisting they were investments even though they both knew he was just being supportive. Their relationship was not without challenges. The media got wind of Preston's new girlfriend, and Sara found herself the subject of tabloid speculation. Preston was furious, but Sara handled it with grace. His work took him to Singapore for 2 weeks, and they spent hours on video calls, missing each other terribly. But through it all, what they had found in that cabin remained solid and true. Preston was there when Sara landed her first major client, bringing champagne and celebrating like she had won the lottery. Sara accompanied Preston to a charity gala and met his business associates, holding her own in conversations about industry and innovation. 6 months after that fateful snowstorm, Preston took Sara back to the cabin. It was summer now, and the property looked completely different with wildflowers dotting the meadows and the mountains green against a blue sky. They hiked to a spot overlooking the valley, and Preston spread out a blanket. I have been thinking about that storm a lot lately. Me too. Sara settled beside him. Best worst timing ever. I used to think success meant building something lasting in business, but that day you showed up at my door, I realized I had been measuring the wrong things. Preston turned to her, his gray eyes intense. You showed me what it means to really connect with someone, to be seen for who I am and not what I have built. Preston, wait, let me finish. He took both her hands. These past 6 months have been the happiest of my life. You make me laugh, you challenge me, you make me want to be better. When I am with you, I am not a billionaire or a CEO. I am just a man who is completely, hopelessly in love with you." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too." Preston reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Sarah's heart stopped. "I know 6 months is not that long, but when you know, you know. Sara Finley, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, an emerald surrounded by diamonds. "It matches your eyes." "Yes." Sarah launched herself at him, and they tumbled onto the blanket, laughing and crying. Preston slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. "When did you even get this?" Sarah asked, admiring how the emerald caught the light. 2 months ago. I have been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment. This is perfect." Sarah kissed him deeply. "Everything about this is perfect." They married that fall in an intimate ceremony at the cabin with just family and close friends. Sarah wore a simple white dress and wildflowers in her hair. Preston could not stop smiling as she walked down the aisle toward him. When they exchanged vows, there was not a dry eye in the room. "I promise to always be your safe harbor in every storm," Preston said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise to always see you for who you really are," Sarah replied, tears streaming down her face. Their reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy. Preston's sister gave a toast about how she had never seen her brother happier. Maya reminded everyone that Sarah had almost not taken the job that day. "To snowstorms and mix-ups and fate," Maya said, raising her glass. "To love finding you when you least expect it," Preston added, pulling Sarah close. 2 years later, Sarah stood in the cabin's nursery, decorating the walls with photographs she had taken of the property through all 4 seasons. Preston came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her growing belly. "He is going to love growing up here," Preston said softly. Or she, Preston agreed, kissing her neck. "Have I told you today how much I love you? Only 3 times. You are slacking." Preston turned her around gently. "I love you, Sara Oakes. Thank you for taking a chance on a grumpy billionaire who answered his door during a storm." Sarah smiled, thinking about that day, about how terrified and cold she had been, how annoyed Preston had looked. How neither of them had known that the storm outside was nothing compared to the one about to sweep through their hearts. "Thank you for letting me in." Their son, Peter, was born that spring, perfect and healthy. They split their time between Denver and the cabin, Preston scaling back his work commitments to be present for his family. Sarah's photography career flourished, her unique style and authentic approach making her one of the most sought-after photographers in the state. On their 4th anniversary, they returned to the cabin during another snowstorm, this time with Peter toddling between them. Preston built a fire while Sarah made hot chocolate, and they told their son the story of how Mommy and Daddy had met. Big snow. Peter exclaimed, pressing his nose to the window. "The biggest," Preston agreed, coming to stand with his family. He looked at Sarah over their son's head, and the love in his eyes still made her breath catch. That night, after Peter was asleep, they sat on the couch where they had shared their first real conversation. Outside, snow fell in the same wild pattern it had 4 years ago, but inside, everything was different. They had built a life together, created a family, found a love that had started with a storm and had only grown stronger. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not shown up that day?" Sarah asked, her head on Preston's shoulder. "All the time. And then I thank whoever mixed up those dates." Preston kissed her temple. "You are my everything, Sarah, you and Peter. And baby number 2, Sarah said quietly. Preston pulled back to look at her. "What?" Sarah smiled, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat stomach. "Surprise." His whoop of joy could probably be heard down the mountain. He picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. "I love you so much. How did I get so lucky?" "We both did." They stood at the window, watching the snow fall, Preston's arms around Sarah and her hands covering his. The storm raged outside, but inside they had everything they needed. Love, family, and the certainty that they had found their forever in the most unexpected way. That snowstorm 4 years ago had trapped them together, But what had really snowed them in was love, swift and unexpected and absolutely perfect. Sara had driven up that mountain looking for a job and found her destiny instead. The cabin that was supposed to be just another assignment had become the place where their story began, where they would make memories for decades to come. Preston tightened his arms around her. "Here's to storms and second chances, to answered doors and new beginnings," Sara replied. Outside, the wind howled, but neither of them heard it. They were too busy holding onto each other, grateful for the twist of fate that had brought them together, for the love that had taken root and flourished, for the family they had created. The storm had brought Sara to Preston's door, but love had invited her in and never let her go. Years from now, they would tell their children and grandchildren about the blizzard that changed everything. About how sometimes the best things in life come when you are lost, cold, and looking for shelter. About how a billionaire and a photographer had been snowed in together and discovered that what they had really been searching for all along was each other. The snow continued falling, blanketing the world in white, but inside the cabin, everything glowed with warmth and light and the kind of love that weathers every storm.